Alright, today we're having a second look at the 7th Sun Spacecraft by CB 7th Sun. Alright, so here we are in the 7th Sun Spacecraft by CB 7th Sun, and we played this, actually, no, I want to check over here. We played this a little bit on stream the other night, and I was so impressed by it that I really wanted to take a bigger look at it on the show, so that is what we are doing here. It's really, really neat. It's very much in CB style, this kind of presenting things on a completely flat style is something that they've done in other levels of theirs, and it works out really well. It's just, this is like a really fully presented level, and I dig it. It's also got a hologram. I feel kind of ways about that because I am working on a hologram level right now, or a level that utilizes. I make the same mistakes over and over. Like, that is my life. I did the same thing on stream. Yeah. Now, we didn't actually get a chance to beat this level on stream because the servers, when they did their thing, they did their servery thing. And wait, I want to get those bubbles though. How do I get? There we go. Okay, that was a little bit weird. Nothing too serious. Oh wait, climbable. It's even marked off. It's even like clearly marked off that that is a climbable bit. Yeah, the servers kind of blew up while we were streaming, and they just refused to load the rest of the level, but we're hoping that that won't be the case here. I won't be able to show all of the level because it is, it's quite chonky. I really appreciate the chonk of this level, but it is le chonk, so... But yeah, like, I really like the gameplay of the level. I think it's set up quite nicely. Everything looks really, really cool. I don't know how to get that. I love these little mice. Look at these mice. They are darling. Everything about this level is darling. And I am here for it. One of the things I really do appreciate about the level is that, like, all the gameplay mechanics, they all kind of build on themselves. You are getting that it's a little bit more difficult each room that you're going through, but you're sticking with mechanics that you've already had some work to do on. Wait, did I want to do... Oh wait, because we gotta go down. Because I thought it was going to loop from the top the first time that we played, and it does not in fact loop from the top. There's a lot of like secrety stuff that you can get. There's these side areas, and that is one slight down point I find to the level. It's a slight one, but that it can be a little bit tough to know, like, where are you supposed to be going exactly. Oh my god, we're like, that's 3 minutes. We're gonna talk about, probably gonna have a lot to say about this back to hub, but we will see you there. See yas. And we're back, and the 7th Sun Spacecraft by CB 7th Sun, and probably you got this impression from the video or from the stream if you had watched this when we played it on the stream, and I would definitely say that it's a strong green circle. I had such a great time with this level. I would have no problem at all recommending this to people, and I feel like as soon as the servers get back into some kind of workable condition and team picks come back, that this is most likely going to pick up a team pick, and would be a well-deserved team pick because it is just great. As the title card tells us, we're in this abandoned spacecraft that we've found. We're going to crab up some point bubbles, and there's not like really a lot of story behind it, but I don't really think that there needs to be a lot of story behind it because the gameplay and the environmental presentation are so strong. Now, we see in the level kind of a hallmark of CB 7th Sun's levels. You've got that flat on one layer style of gameplay presentation, which I do really, really like, and I think that CB uses that to very, very good effect. It can hide some places where you need to go backwards in layer, which I think is used here quite well to hide secret sections and places where you might need to interact to get like score bubbles or power crystals, but otherwise it's not like confusing to the player. Now, one thing that could be an issue at times, because the cameras are presenting the area at all times that you're in, and they don't move with the player at all, and sometimes it might give the impression when there are breaks in the side of the screen, breaks in the material like walls or floors, that there might be something below that or to the side of that that you could jump into. You kind of have to keep the layout of the level in your head a little bit. I think that the pathing is strong enough that that doesn't really become a big issue, but if you're searching around, if you haven't found like all of the power crystals, you're wondering where you are, you might find yourself eating a couple of deaths because thinking to yourself like, oh well, maybe there's something secret that's below this that I could drop down into, and it turns out to just be hazards. I do kind of wish that in those sections that if the edge was going to definitely kill you, that it would just, there would be like a visible hazard there, but that's a very small point. The material choice for this level is great. The materials tend to do a lot of heavy lifting with the like decorative elements of the level, because there's not really a lot of decoration, and normally I would say that as though it were a bad thing, but I feel like the decoration that we do get in the level is modular in a way that allows it to be repeated throughout the level without putting too much stress on the thermo, so that you still get an environment that feels full but probably wasn't eating up a lot of space for the actual level itself and the gameplay elements that CB wanted to include in them. You notice that there's like a lot of like red paneling, moving paneling with like red lights on them that show out throughout the level. You've got some like clock panels that are throughout the level. Like if you count them, and there's not really a lot, but they're used over and over again, and they're used well over and over again to give that sense of space and environment, and it's really good technique. I really liked it. As far as the gameplay goes, and I think that it's got a nice building sense of momentum throughout the level. You've got, you know, your easy stuff is at the beginning, where you're just dealing with like one gameplay element right up at the front. It's mostly just avoiding the hazardous, the electrified hologram material. Nothing too major there. Some simple interactions with the environment. As you go on, they add the wall jump is added in there, and then, well, the floaty fluid is added in first, which I really like the way that the floaty fluid is initially introduced in like a secret section where you can go over and there's like a big bubble of floaty fluid that's got a hazard in the middle of it, and it's like leaking out, so giving the impression that maybe there's like a coolant system that's leaking, and that's why we've got all this floaty fluid in the level. Now, personally, I'm not a super big fan of floaty fluid. I do feel like it's the way that I play levels, the way I play LBP, that doesn't really interact well with that material, because I tend to rush a lot. And if you're using the boost to rush in floaty fluid, it's really easy to drop out the bottoms or come out too quickly from the top and run into like a hazard and get yourself killed. That's very much on me. I know there's people that swear by floaty fluid, and I think it is used well in the level. It's not necessarily my favorite bit. And then once you got like the floaty fluid, the player's really well understanding how that's going to work, and you introduce the wall jump. And then once you introduce the wall jump and the player's understanding how that's going to work, and then you introduce the attractogel, which again is not one of my favorite gameplay elements, but I do think that it's well used here. The attractogel probably gets the smallest amount of space in the level, and I think that's honestly kind of appropriate, because I do think that too much attractogel tends to slow down levels an awful lot, and because there's a race aspect to this level, momentum is really important, so you don't want to slow the player down that much, and I think that for that reason, having the attractogel have a smaller section is probably for the best. But none of these gameplay elements feel like they've gotten short shrift. It's not like you've got a grappling hook that's been added for just exactly one thing and then you're done with it. Like, they all have their time to shine, and they all have sections towards the end where they've got like combined forms that you are, you know, you've already gotten used to these different things in their isolation, and now here we're putting them together. I think that's really excellent technique, and I really appreciated seeing it in this level. Now, one bit that I do have a bit of a detraction in the level, something I didn't particularly appreciate, is with the wall jump. Although gameplay-wise, I think the wall jump is extremely well utilized. There's no real issues with that aspect of it. But the presentation of the wall jump, because the coloring of the sticker panel that they're using to represent the wall jump is not exactly the same, but it's close enough to the the hologram material, the electrode hologram material, that I think that if you're moving a little bit too quickly, that your brain can kind of combine those 2 points, and you might find yourself throwing yourself into hologram material that is going to eventually kill you. And in fact, in an earlier section, I think we probably saw in the video playthrough earlier, that there's one bit where you've got some moving platforms, and they're kind of joining up, and the bottom of the higher moving platform is electrified. And that's not a hologram electrified material, but it's actually sticker panel electrified material. So it's kind of like, it's confusing it, I think, a little bit to the player, and I don't know what color would have been better, because the colors, I think, in this level are very, very well chosen, and I think a lot of thought has been gone into just what colors are going to be on display. So like a bright red, for example, I think would go out of that color palette that CB has chosen for this, but maybe like a purple, something that's got a sharper distinction from that light blue that we see in the electrified holo material, might have been a better choice to me. There's also, like, in the level that I really, really liked, you've got that, like, Super Meat Boy style gameplay section just like tossed in there for fun, and it is actually like a really fun section. It is a little bit tough to tell that the Sackbot that you're controlling does have a hero cape, so when we played it in the stream and I was playing it as though I didn't have a hero cape, and I kept on dying because one of the jumps is going to be impossible if you're not like gliding into the next wall. That's a small detail, but the actual segment itself is a lot of fun. It was a nice little break from the other gameplay of the level, and it introduces, I think, a pretty good point in the level, 2 pretty good points in this level. One, just from a philosophy of play, that the level really isn't that hard. Like, there's nothing in this level, I think, that would challenge a player of low to medium level of skill. Like, you don't need to be an epic player to be able to beat this level and beat it fairly comfortably, get a good score on it, if you're taking it at a good pace. Like, if you're trying to rush through the level, then you're probably going to end up eating a lot of deaths. But if you go at the level's pace, then you'll be able to see like everything that's on the screen. All the hazards are presented to you, all the gameplay is presented to you pretty clearly. So kind of taking your time a little bit, getting a really good read of the layout of the various rooms that you're going in, and you'll go through this as a breeze. I wasn't quite able to ace it, but I was able to beat it quite comfortably, and I think that the Super Meat Boy section there kind of pulls that idea into one visible bit, so I thought that was really, really cool. The second aspect of this, because there is a race element to this level, you can grab the sponge at the beginning, well, it's not sponge, it's cloth, but you can grab it at the beginning and it'll change it into a race mode, and that there's a number of sections in the level that I don't know if I would say that they're entirely secret sections, but they're more like optional sections. Like we saw at the very beginning of the play, that if you go off to the left and you've got this like kind of 2-zone area where you can get some power crystals and you get point bubbles to better your score. And like when you're playing through just regularly, and of course you'd want to see the entire level, and there's some really neat bits to the side. There's that floaty fluid bit that we talked about earlier. There's a nice bit where you're going off into this area with like really low lighting, and you've got some bounce pads that you're going to be getting over hazards to get a crystal there and come back. But the hallway to that is really cool looking. You've got this larger attractogel section where it looks like a lot of goop has kind of colonized that section of the spacecraft, and there's a lot of point bubbles in that bit. And like when you're playing through normally, and of course you want to see all of that, but when you're playing through for a race and you're kind of doing that cost-benefit analysis of like, if I go to those sections, I get the points from those sections, but I lose the time that I'm spending in them because they are a little bit big, they're a little bit off the beaten path. So like, is it better if I ignore those sections and just like straight shot beeline to the end and miss the bonus, or should I go into those sections, give up the timing that I'm using, but then getting the extra points for it? And I went for the sections because I am a completionist in levels if it's possible for me to do so, but it might have been better for me to just ignore them. I noticed on the scoreboard I managed to get 3rd place with 85,000. CB is ahead of me with 99,000, and Phantom Strum, go Phantom Strum, 102,000 points, and I'm wondering, like, did they go for everything, or did they just race for the end? I love this level. I've got very, very few complaints about it. Not really anything I feel like I need to warn folks about that I haven't said already. I enjoin you strongly, if you haven't played this level yet, to go out and give it a shot. I think you're going to have an absolutely fabulous time with it. And yeah, I think that pretty much does it for us here at this Go About. So from me, Disco, here in Tokyo. Oh, I didn't talk about the enemies. I loved the enemies. I thought that they were just really, really cute. I think they worked really well with the design of the level, with the presentation of the level, using the materials that are in the actual main build of the level so that you don't have too much going on, again, eating up the thermo. The little mice, chef's kiss. Those little mice were fabulous. I love them. But, okay, for real this time. From me, Disco, here in Tokyo, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you, arigato, arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.